If you are a busy professional woman and you think that your stress is causing some weight gain, we're going to dive into that today. Does stress really cause weight gain? Some people say it causes them to lose weight. So, what's really going on? And if stress is causing your weight gain, how do you go about fixing it? That's what we're diving into on the podcast today.
Welcome to She's Healthy, a podcast for ambitious women on their journey to become the healthiest version of themselves. I'm your host, Lori Aikman.
All right. If you are new to the podcast, welcome back. This is She's Healthy. I'm your host, Lori Aikman, a nurse practitioner, founder and CEO of Queen Bee Medicine and Crown Executive Health, where we help busy professional women balance their hormones, lose the weight, get their energy back, and start feeling like themselves again. I want to let you know as I dive into this podcast today. So I am a nurse practitioner. I've got to give you my medical disclaimer. This podcast does not constitute medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. So I just encourage you to take what you learned from the podcast today, talk it over with your provider before you then go and make any changes to your healthcare plan. All right. So let's dive in. So if you feel like stress is causing your weight gain, you might be right. But some people say, okay, stress causes them to lose weight. So what's really going on? And I'm going to give you, I guess before we even dive in, this can be very individualized. And I'm going to tell you the differences that are happening in people when maybe stress does cause them to gain weight versus when stress causes people to lose weight. So what is true for one person's body is not true for another person's body. But I will tell you kind of what I see generally in the women that I work with, and again, are busy working professional women, often 30s, I would say mid 30s to mid 50s range. If you fall outside of that category, don't worry, you're still going to get some great takeaways from today's episode. So I will let you know, okay, so do you lose weight versus if you gain weight, there is some genetic component here. So I do some genetic testing with patients and clients sometimes. And what we see is that some people are more prone to burnout than others, actually genetically, just what their bodies are able to handle. So there is some genetic component to us, experiencing stress and how it affects our bodies. But then the other part really comes down to what we call our metabolic function. So think of your metabolism, right? We all kind of think of our metabolism as our body's ability to burn calories. If you have a fast metabolism, then you can eat a lot, right? But so what's going on there is it's actually the energy cycle in your body. So when you eat food and how your body uses that food or that fuel for energy, right? That's really your metabolism. And how well that process is working, right, might determine how well, whether you gain or lose weight more easily if you're under stress. The other thing is if somebody is under stress and they lose weight more easily, their metabolism might be different, might be a faster, I guess would be the layman's term way to say that, than somebody who gains. But then also, are they somebody who has some muscle and has, it really just it can be so individualized, and it depends on where you're at. We're going to dive into this some, how long your body has been under stress, whether you lose or you gain. So I don't really have a clear, oh, everybody is going to gain when they're under, right? It really is individualized, and it depends on, again, where your body is in the process. So first of all, before we dive into this, my approach to things is a functional medicine approach. So it's a root cause medicine approach. So we really have to look at, okay, what's going on in the body to cause this, right? This is the approach I use with all of my patients and my clients. So quick review, what we're going to talk about is the stress response, and there's 3 different phases. So when our body is under stress, when we experience stress, so we're talking about more psychological stress, most likely. So deadlines at work, maybe, financial stress, relationship stress, something stressful is going on in your life. Okay. I will let you know, there are other types of sort of stressors. There can be dietary lifestyle stress, just not eating healthy, not sleeping, things like that. There can also be stress from inflammation and infection. But we're going to talk about, again, just that psychological stress. So when you experience stress, there's basically 3 phases to this. So early on in the stress response, our body experiences stress. So our brain, we perceive stress, like our body is aware that we're under stress by this signaling in the hypothalamus. So it's a gland in our brain called the hypothalamus. Well, then the hypothalamus triggers to something called our pituitary gland and then our adrenals. So this HPA axis is one of the things that gets triggered when we're under stress. Okay. And you probably all heard before, but we release cortisol in response to stress. So cortisol is a stress hormone. So when we're initially under, maybe when we were younger and like we first experienced stress for the first time, or maybe we've recovered and life has been good, and then all of a sudden something happens, right? So initially when we're under stress, and you think about like when something, you almost get in a car accident, right? Like that, it literally within seconds of this, threat coming or whatever. We have an increase in our cortisol output, and that is our body. I always say this is our body's primitive response. It's our body's like protective way of, going, okay, I need to rise to the occasion. This is also, termed as fight or flight. So our fight or flight response gets triggered. Okay. And then we have this release in cortisol. So cortisol is going to be high in this initial time. So some people can feel kind of like energized. This is like, okay, I've like got all this adrenaline pumping through me. Even if it's like within a week, something happens and it's that like first week, you might find you're not sleeping as easily. You don't feel as hungry, right? Cortisol is high and it's kind of almost like a little buzz feeling, right? It's like, I'm kind of living off this adrenaline rush kind of feeling, if that makes sense. That's what's going on in that acute phase. So my people can be losing weight here because of those things. So like they're feeling more energized, they're not sleeping as much. Maybe they are not eating as much, because what also happens is that when cortisol rises, our blood sugar increases, and a lot of times people don't feel hungry, so they might not be eating as much. So this might be the time when people say, well, I lose weight when I get stressed out. Okay. Of course, like if you're so stressed and under prolonged stress, again, and this is going to be individualized, and you're just like not eating, right? Even if stress has been going, you're in a later phase, that could be causing somebody to lose weight. Obviously, they're just like undernourishing their body. Okay. But again, that's the acute phase. But then we have what is called the compensatory phase, that second stage. What happens, and I've talked about this on other podcast episodes. So if you like hear this and you're like, okay, what is all that? Like if you look up episodes where I talk about cortisol, things like that, I talk about this again. But so we move into this compensatory phase. What that means, so compensatory, your body is compensating. You can only have high cortisol, for so long before your body tries to like calm that down, because cortisol is very, very stimulating to the body. So think about that, like feeling adrenaline rush all the time, right? It's again very stimulating to the body, and the body can only take high cortisol for so long. So what happens is your body starts inactivating some of that cortisol to what's called cortisone, which is the inactive form. So in this compensatory phase, you can have still high cortisol at times, but then you can have lower cortisol at times. And I will tell you, when I work with, so this is something that we actually test in many of my patients and clients. And when we test this, I find that the majority of the women I work with are in this phase or the next phase then that I'll talk about. I don't think that I've had any female clients, or no. I can think of one female client. Her tests just came to mind. I can think of one female client that had a higher cortisol level. Most women that I find have lower cortisol levels. But so what does that have to do with the weight gain? Okay. So again, that stress response is continuing. Your body is trying to keep up, trying to compensate for it. But because that cortisol has been high for so long, remember, cortisol again is going to drive up blood sugar. I'm sorry, I have a little itch on my eyebrows. Cortisol is going to drive up the blood sugar. And then in response, so cortisol, and again, that is a protective thing. So it's giving your body energy to fight or flee in that state of stress. Okay. If we go back to talk about that fight or flight. So in response to blood sugar being high, your body also releases the hormone insulin. Insulin is the hormone that helps the sugar in your bloodstream get into your body's cells so that it can be used for energy. It can be used for fuel. Okay. But what happens is that when our blood sugar is high for too long, insulin will rise. And then if insulin stays high, what a lot of times happens is that insulin is high for too long and insulin stops working as well. This is a term called insulin resistance. And anytime we have higher insulin levels, what we have to think of is insulin is a fat storing hormone. So insulin, if we have all this blood sugar, and our body has to make all this insulin to keep up with all this blood sugar. Well, your cells can only use so much at a time. So what our body doesn't use, then as a protective mechanism, our body will store that extra sugar as fat. So you have to think of insulin as a fat storing hormone. Okay. So this is when, again, I see in the female clients that I work with is that they start to have weight gain from stress. It's when stress has gone on for a longer period of time and there's not been relief from stress. So think about if you are a busy working professional woman, if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you've been, right? I'm almost 40. I've been in my career since I was a nurse at 21. I became a nurse practitioner at, I don't remember, 27 maybe. So, I've been in my career, even as a nurse practitioner, for going on 12 years now, right? So stressful job. I have 3 kids, right? Things like that. You have all these factors that you're probably not getting real stress relief from, right? You can't take a break from your career. You can't take a break from your children, or you can't take a break from whatever other stressors might be going on in your life, taking care of parents, who knows, whatever else. When stress has gone on for so long, then again, we see that higher blood sugar and higher insulin levels. Okay. Which again, insulin is a fat storing hormone and insulin is going to cause you to gain weight. So then we talk about that exhaustion phase. Okay. So, and I'm sorry, I'm going super sciencey. This is the first time you've listened to this. You might have to go back and listen to it again. But so in that exhaustion phase so we had that high cortisol initially, we had the compensatory phase where our body is trying to compensate, right, for that high cortisol levels. And then if stress keeps going and we don't get any relief from it, again, our body in an effort to protect itself inactivates all that cortisol to cortisone. And we get into what's called the exhaustion, or I like to term it burnout phase. And this is where cortisol is low all the time. Okay. But what has happened again is that during those times of high cortisol, we've had high blood sugar. Then our body has produced lots of insulin. And what happens is when we have all this insulin constantly being released, more than we should have, this is again, talking about optimal levels. Okay. Then what happens is that insulin starts not working as well. And we have all this insulin. And so now all that insulin is causing us to store that sugar as fat. Okay. And so that is what I see in all of my clients. So kind of to recap that, okay, we talked about a lot of things, but stress drives up cortisol. Cortisol causes release of sugar into the bloodstream. Your body is going to release insulin in order to help get that blood sugar into the cell or to store it as fat. So, right. So insulin is that fat storing hormone. And eventually when we have lots of insulin, that insulin stops working as well. And we get that what's called insulin resistance. And I would say nearly all of the women that I have worked with, nearly all the working professional women that I have worked with, who are having these hormonal changes causing weight gain, when we test their blood sugar, when we test their insulin, they are higher than optimal. They are not in the normal optimal range. And it's because of this higher than optimal blood sugar and insulin that they are gaining weight. And this is even in women that are healthy for the most part, that are exercising, that are eating healthy, that are taking supplements, and they have this like 10 pounds they can't lose, right? It's as much as true for them as my clients that have 100 pounds that they want to lose, or 50 pounds or whatever it is. We've got to think about that as a blood, the weight gain as a blood sugar and an insulin issue. That might be totally new for you. You might have still be in that camp of like, oh, if I'm gaining weight, it's because I'm eating too much and I need to exercise more. And that's not always the case, right? It's a lot of times it's these hormonal changes that are driving up and causing weight gain. So I would say, again, in the majority of the clients that I see that are busy working professional women, often between the ages of 35 to 55 years old, their weight gain is coming from higher than optimal blood sugar and insulin levels. And I will say, when I say higher than optimal, that is again looking at a functional medicine approach to this. So a functional medicine lens, right? I love talking about blood sugar. So if you go to Quest, you go to LabCorp, you get blood work done, that's ordered by your provider, and you test a fasting blood sugar, it's going to tell you if it's between 60 and like 99 that it's normal. And right, that's like upwards of 90% of the population will fall into that category. I always say, like, do you think 90 something percent of the population is healthy? No, we have all the statistics that we have a growing obesity problem, right? We have all these health problems. So optimal fasting blood sugar levels are actually about 75 to 85 when we look at a functional medicine approach. So I can't tell you how many women I've seen fasting blood sugars in the 90s and their doctor has told them, it's normal, you're fine. But if it were like 5 points higher, above 100, then okay, it's getting a little high, right? So again, when we look from a functional medicine lens, we're looking at optimal levels and we're seeing changes before they necessarily meet diagnostic criteria for like, pre-diabetes or something like that. So this is why I live by and practice a functional medicine approach, a root cause approach, because again, when we just look at normal levels on labs, if we just look at normal on regular labs for blood sugar, we're going to miss this every time. And this is why nearly every woman that I ever talk to, whether it's just on an interest call or they come on as a client, they tell me, yeah, I had blood work done with my, my primary care, my OBGYN, even endocrinology sometimes. And they tell them everything is normal. And they go, I don't understand why I don't feel normal, but they said all my blood work's normal. And I say that because women are being gaslit all the time by conventional medicine and just being told, okay, you fall in normal range. Your symptoms are just because you're a mom, because you work too much, or because you're getting older and hitting perimenopause. And it's like, we're leaving women stuck and frustrated and hopeless by continuing to tell them that like, oh, no, you don't meet criteria, you're fine. It's just, this is just your lot in life, deal with it, right? That's complete BS. Which is why I do these podcasts and I keep putting this information out here so that more women can hear and can get the help they need. So, what was I going to say? I got on a tangent there. I was going to say so many women, a lot of times tell me, I can actually think of a client, we had an onboarding call like last week, And she wrote it in her intake. She was like, I've just kind of come to believe that like it's my fault that I don't feel well and I'm not like trying hard enough, or maybe it's just my new normal and I need to deal with that. And that just couldn't be further from the truth. So if you're hearing this and you feel that same way, I just want to offer, I just want to encourage you with this information that there really are answers for the symptoms that you're experiencing if you are experiencing this like stress related weight gain. So, okay, so you might be hearing this and thinking, okay, this is my problem. How do I fix it? Like you're, ding, 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 everything, all the bells are going off that this is right. This is me. But what do I actually do? So if you are a busy working professional woman, especially a female business owner, you're a working mom, maybe you're a business owner who's a mom, right? And you like all those things, you're doing all the things. The thing is, people will tell you, because I hear this from some of my other clients, that you just need to work less. You need to reduce your stress. That's all the problem. And yes, of course, there are things we need to delegate. We do need to manage our stress. And that's actually something that I work with my clients on is figuring out how to reduce the stress response in their body. And we need to set boundaries and all those types of healthy things. But this is what I hear sometimes is a lot of these women get told like, oh, you need to work less. One, that might not be an option for them to work less, especially if they're the breadwinner, they're supporting their family, things like that. But two, you might be told, like, yeah, you need to work less, but like you love your job, and you get fulfilled from it and you really believe it's your passion and your calling, right? Like scaling back from that doesn't seem like a feasible option. But I'm here to tell you that you can learn to eat and live in a way that helps support your hormones, that helps to reduce, right? We talked about this being a blood sugar and insulin problem. And there's things that we can do to fix that. And so good news for you is that I just came out with a new 5-day to fat burn plan. Is just a freebie that you can grab that was made specifically with busy working professional women in mind. So I actually had sent this over to a client of mine. And even we caught up today and she said, even just within a week of changing the way she was eating to this plan, she's like got more energy. She feels more, she was having a lot of mood swings and her mood swings feel more stable, sleeping better. She's having less cravings, things like that already just within a week, of changing the way she's eating. I will tell you, she is also doing some other hormonal shift type things, as well. But what we've changed in this last week where she's felt the biggest difference has been the way she eats. So if you are ready for those kind of results, again, what you're going to want to do is grab, so it's called 5 days of fat burn, 5-day meal plan to shift your hormones and get your metabolism firing for busy professional women. So to grab that, there's going to be a link in the show notes. So you can just go to the show notes and click on that link. You can also shoot me if you're on social, you're hearing this somewhere. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm just at Lori Aikman, or you can on Facebook as well too. Just DM me Fatburn, FATBURN, and I will send you that link to grab your copy of the meal plan. I will tell you, this isn't just like a quick, like it's literally like, I think the booklet is like 30 pages long because it has the recipes and has the shopping list. If we really just wanted this to be like super high value for you, where you can take this and like start to see some results in your body, right? This is easy stuff that you shouldn't have to like work with a professional or pay big money for. And I understand that like it's so hard. There's so many diets out there. There's so many like this coach and that coach and take this supplement and all that's telling you like this is what you need. And I just really am on a mission to clear up the clutter, help women understand their bodies, understand what it takes to feel better and feel the way they want to feel like themselves again. So definitely grab that 5 days to fat burn. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope this was helpful. I'd love it if you took a screenshot and send me a DM. Also, if you know a woman who needs to hear this, maybe you need to send this to your coworkers. Maybe you need to send this to your team. If you're in like a leadership role and you have people working under you and you know they might be struggling with things like this, or you guys have had that conversation, please, please, please pass this on. Help women to help other women help get the help they need, just by hearing what could be going on in their body. And of course, if you're hearing this and you're like, okay, yeah, this is it. I know this is the problem. I need to move forward. And you want to work with me or my team. What you can do is also, we'll put a link in the show notes where you can just book a free 15-minute intro call, just so we can hear about you, hear what you're looking for, and help you determine what your best next step is. All right. All right. Make sure you grab that freebie, grab that meal plan, and I will see you in the next episode.